If you've been wondering how to start a breathwork practice, this episode's for you. Hey, we're Britt and Chris Carmichael, and you're listening to the Elevated Life Podcast. Throughout the 13 years we've been together, we've never ceased in our endless quest to better ourselves.
We've studied top experts, philosophers, and gurus. After years of personal self-experimentation, we found the tools for shifting your beliefs, moving through fears, and developing a positive mindset.
If you're ready for a breakthrough, then you're in the right place because we're here to empower you to take control of your life with simple mindset shifts that create radical transformation.
We'll be diving into topics like personal growth, health, philosophy, spirituality, relationships, success, and mindfulness.
So create some space for yourself and get comfy. It's time to become the badass you were born to be. So when it comes to tools for healing and spiritual transformation, you would never think that your breath could be the most powerful tool you possess. It's also free, which is kind of probably why nobody tells you about it, because they can't market it to you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what something like just inhaling and exhaling can do for you. And I think we don't realize it because it's so unconscious. We've always been doing it. We came into this world and breathed that first big breath. And then I think after that big breath, what we start to do is it gets kind of shorter and shallower as we live. And a lot of it has to do with what our internal state of mind is doing. Our breath always will reflect what's going on inside of us. And that's why it's such a cool tool, because you can affect what's going on inside of you by manipulating the breath. So if you do those nice, long, slow, relaxed, deep breathing, what ends up happening is inside your body, it starts to automatically calm down.
So inside the Elevated Life Club this month, we taught all about breath work, and we shared so many different tools and practices for our elevators to learn how to control their breath, to reduce anxiety, to increase energy and bliss, to sleep better. So many different ways that you can use your breath to manipulate and heal and all the things, right? And what we heard time and time again after we got off that call was, oh my God, I feel so much better. Wow, I wasn't going to come to the class live today, but I decided to show up and I'm so glad I did. It was just overwhelming how many people message specifically after this. We get messages after every masterclass, but this one specifically seemed to have a lot of people buzzing about how good they felt after just breathing.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times in our master classes, we do a lot of, lecturing kind of thing, and then we do some exercises, but in this masterclass, it was like 90% exercises. So it was more of a workshop, if you will. It was really allowing people to try out different tools. And you have to get a person so that they're there, you're with an instructor, you're with someone who knows what they're doing, and then you can get feedback and say, ooh, that was challenging for me, or ooh, I didn't know how to do this part. And so that was what we were able to troubleshoot live with them. And so we want to come on here today and share a little bit with breathwork so that you can go ahead and start your practice and get some of those benefits that our elevators have been messaging us so much about, because it's going to drive you bonkers when you figure out how such simple techniques can make big, massive, sweeping changes in your life just by focusing on them and doing them for a few minutes each day. This is not something that you have to do for 10 hours. It's something that you can do for only a few minutes and automatically change that state that you're in so that you can do more of what you want to be doing in the right mindset.
So we're going to teach you the box breathing method. We're also going to talk about the number one thing when it comes to breath work on what you need to be doing and not doing at the same time. So important, and you kind of have to rewire your unconscious patterning to make this happen. And also let's talk about the struggles that our elevators were saying. It's really hard for me to breathe like that, or when I breathe through my nose, it's more difficult, or let's talk about some of those challenges that came up too.
Yeah, so one of the things that if you're not used to taking deep breaths, and what I mean by that, if you're not used to taking breaths that last more than, let's say, 4 seconds.
Let's do one right now.
All right, let's breathe in for 4 and breathe out for 4. Now, ask yourself, was that a challenge? For most people, you should be okay with that. And if you're not, there's definitely something to practice. But we got deeper. We started doing counts for 8, counts for 10. And once you start to get further along the line, you see people start to drop off because they're not used to saturating themselves with that much oxygen. They're not used to expanding their lungs that way. They're not used to manipulating the diaphragm or letting their stomach come out or holding the stomach in during certain things. And so for them, it became a challenge. And what a lot of people do is when they feel challenged, they automatically start to panic. And so when they go to that, they go, oh, it was tough. And so they start to panic. I'm not doing it right. I'm kind of freaking out here.
Anxiety arises.
Immediately what happens is the breath changes, which is perfect because now we're in an opportunity where we can change how the breath is doing while you're doing breath work. And so find out for yourself, can you take a super deep breath? Can you breathe out for 8, 10, 15, 20 seconds? Can you make that? Because if not, that's something you're going to need to work on. It takes time to build up, just like any kind of sport or any kind of thing that you're interested in. It takes time to, that's what we call it, a practice.
I was going to say in yoga,
you have to practice.
Yeah, in my yoga practice, I remember not being able to breathe as deep, in the beginning, and over time, the capacity in which your muscles change and flexibility expands. Same with the muscles of your lungs and the expansion of how much breath you can bring into your body.
Yeah, so something to start thinking about, and also be thinking about what is your posture like, because that is going to matter hugely. If you're closed off, if your shoulders round forward, if you're in this kind of slumped over position, or if you have that sort of texting neck, or when you're in that weird position all the time, it affects your breathing. In the same way that when you're doing yoga postures, if you're in something that's difficult, if you're maybe in like a back bridge position or a wheel, it may be hard for you to breathe. And so that's why we want to spend time in those positions. What we find is that the exercises that we did in the master class, the ones that sort of triggered people, maybe not necessarily a negative way, but brought something up, and not just necessarily emotional things to the surface, which can happen in breath work, but just that made them feel physically a little bit of maybe discomfort. Those are the ones that they need to be focused on the most, because those are the ones that are going to help them and help them build a practice that really supports them, so that when they get in situations where they have to actually use it, it's there. And that's why we practice, is because when you're in that moment, when you need it, you want to be able to call on it. And not only do that, you don't have to think it through. You want your body to automatically respond in that way. That way you don't get into something stressful, and then you're going to have to be, okay, what did I remember again? What did they say? How many seconds was it? What was the technique exactly? Your body will just start doing it. If you caught our last podcast, we talked about what happened when we got in the automobile accident, is that we went directly to calm breathing. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. It was natural. I didn't have to think about it. And so Britt was doing that. I was doing that. And what ended up happening is it took down our stress levels. And so we could think clearly. We could be in that intuitive essence and know what the next right move for us is to do.
So before we dive in and teach you the simple technique that you can call on in the midst of chaos, I want to bring up the number one thing you must start doing and bringing attention to, and that is breathing in through your nose. This was something that we kind of hammered home in the masterclass. It ended up coming in to be like one of those topics where like, hey, hey, mouth breather. It's time to start breathing through your nose because 1, it purifies the air that comes into your system. 2, it hits the brain first, saturates it with oxygen, which actually makes you smarter. Chris shared a really interesting fact.
Yeah, the mouth breathing lowers your IQ. I mean, if you watch somebody who is a mouth breather and you talk to them for long enough, you notice that kind of behind their eyes, when you look at them in the eyes, it just seems like they're not 100% there. And it's because of how they're using their breath to set up their entire body. Because think about it. If you wait a few minutes to breathe, you're gone. Like, life doesn't last for people who don't breathe. And so this is one of those things that we have to pull apart. We have to figure out how it works, and we have to figure out how it can best serve us, because one of the real big truths about life is no matter what happens, you're always there with you. And so this is an opportunity for you to take control of your physiology, for you to take control of what you're doing in your life, and let that lead the way for everything else.
Yeah, so stop breathing through your mouth and start breathing through your nose. This is tip number 1. And tip number 2 is once you've brought that beautiful breath in through your nose, bring it all the way down to your belly. It's so important for you to bring the oxygen all the way into your system so that you're not just stopping at the throat or the chest. That's where anxiety and stress live. If you want to access states of peace and calm, then you've got to bring that breath all the way down into those centers that cultivate that feeling.
Yeah, why do you think it is that all of the big spiritual leaders, all the yogis, all the what we consider spiritual masters have been doing is meditating. And when you think about meditating, or when you think about yoga or those types of practices that are considered spiritual practices, the number one thing that you do is you control your breath. All of them have some sort of a breathing component in them. And that is because breath work, once you get really into it, allows you to access altered states of consciousness. And in those states, you find peace and you find love and you find new realities that in regular, stressful, anxious-ridden, sort of this scarcity mindset, just not feeling enough or not feeling loved enough, they're not accessible there. You have to get into these deeper layers of the mind, and it starts with pulling that breath deep down into the belly. Just imagine the deeper that you breathe, the more you can access.
Oh, it's like life, really.
Yeah.
Bringing more chi, prana, life force energy into your system. So you'll think clearer, you'll feel better, you'll be more energized. You're getting high on your own supply over here. You know what I'm saying? So breath work. Breathe in through the nose, breathe deep into the belly, close your mouth and use it for talking and eating. And let's get ready for some box breathing. You want to dive into this technique?
Yeah, so box breathing really comes about, or where it became famous was through the Navy SEALs. This is something that the Navy SEALs like to use before they go into combat to calm the nerves. So this is perfect if you get nervous or you get anxious or you just want to relax some. What we're going to be doing, and if you can, I like to close my eyes with this. Once you do this enough times, you can do it with your eyes open. You can do it in regular conversation while someone's talking to you. You can do it anywhere at any time. But to start off, I always like to sit down somewhere comfortable and sit straight. Get that spine nice and straight. Maybe you can tuck your chin in just a little bit. And when we talk about a box, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be breathing in for 4 seconds. We're going to hold it for 4 seconds. We're going to breathe out for 4 seconds. And we're going to hold that for 4 seconds. And then repeat that cycle. So if you can imagine, each of those 4 seconds is one side of a box. And if you draw a box while you're doing it, that act of drawing it inside your imagination will also cause you to relax. Because a lot of times when our mind is overactive, we have to get it to focus on something to bring it back home, bring it back to the stillness place, bring it back so that our emotions begin to sort of lessen their load on our shoulders. And so what you want to do is draw that in your mind and focus on that as you do it so that you can begin to mentally relax.
So let's do it together.
Yeah.
Let's create this box breath. So imagine visualizing the box in your mind, and then I'm going to count for us.
Let's do it.
So we're going to inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4. So that was one round of a box breath.
Yeah, and what you want to really be doing is I like to do this if I have the time and I'm there and I'm in a situation where I can practice it, I want to do this typically for about 3 minutes. It takes about 3 minutes to do enough rounds to where you really kind of settle in. Once you've done it enough and your mind goes, oh my gosh, I can use this technique and we can do this unconsciously later in life, you only have to do it a few times. But if you're going to get on an airplane, if you're going to speak in front of people, it's really nice to sort of bring those nerves down a little bit. And that way, once you get out there and talk, or once you actually get into the thing that you're doing, now you can bring the energy back in. You just don't need it right before you go out there because you're going to sort of kill the mood. You're going to peak too early. So get out there with your people or in your situation and let that energy come forth, but relax in the beginning so that you come out there with a relaxed, nice, focused attitude.
Oh, love this technique. Really, this is something that if you're standing in line and you find yourself feeling impatient, this is important. This is great to use if you're driving and, road rage is coming on, or anxiety if you feel that way in a car. This can be used for so many different scenarios.
I'll tell you another way I like to do this is that if I have somebody that I'm talking to and I know they've gone into ramble mode, like you just can tell this story is going to take a while for us to sit here and finish, and I'm going to let them finish because I'm here and I'm talking to them and I like them and I know they like me and we're going to have this conversation, but I'm not really, really, really interested in it. What I'll do is I'll box breathe while looking directly at their face and nodding my head a little bit. I'll sit there and box breathe and I'll draw the box on their face and just draw it and then draw the next line, draw the next line, draw the next line. And they're like, damn, this guy's really interested in what I'm saying. I am really interested, but I'm going to breathe right here. I'm going to do my breathing practice while you're talking so I can knock out these 2 birds with 1 stone right here.
From the vegan.
It's true. Listen, sometimes you just got to do it.
I love it. Oh my gosh. So we hope that you enjoyed this easy, simple practice to create calm within the chaos. This is so powerful for you to start drawing awareness to your breath, because when you can take conscious control of your breathing, you can take conscious control of your life.
Oh, and you can really determine that how powerful, and because here's what I like about breath work the most. This is what I really, really, really like. This is the most important part to me, is that what you do when you start breathing like this for a longer duration, for where you really start practicing it, where you really start caring about this and taking note, is that what you're able to do is you're able to reveal your authentic self. Because who you really are is underneath all of those thoughts that you normally have. And the way to calm your neurology down, the way to calm your thoughts down and get your emotions back wrapped under control is to manipulate all the breath work, is to manipulate that breath and get it back slower. Because we're not taking really deep breaths, we're taking slow breaths. You know, it's taking that 4 seconds or taking a little bit longer, maybe 5 to 8 seconds. I mean, you can even box breathe that way. If you'll take an 8-second box breath once you get better and notice what you discover about yourself. The important part is not just what it does for our health and not just all those great factors or performance. It's you discovering who you really are. Because if you're just thoughts and thoughts and thoughts and thoughts and thoughts, you're not talking to who you really are. You're talking to something that you've made up in your mind or something that someone's told you before. And so you really want to be able to start to reveal this. Who am I? Like, that's the question to really be focused on while you're doing breath work.
Well, isn't that the age-old question, Carmichael, to come home to yourself? Who am I? That's kickstarted this whole spiritual self-discovery journey for me. I asked myself, well, who am I? Well, I don't even know. What do I stand for? What do I love? Like, that's a deep question. And if you want to go deep, then we invite you to join us inside the Elevated Life Club, where we do live monthly group coaching. We create a simple yoga and meditation practice every single month for you to follow along. And this month, the Breathwork Masterclass was off the charts.
It was fire.
Man, I think there were so many people that joined live. They were like, I need this in my life. And so we're so excited to be able to share these tools with you so that when shit hits the fan, because we know it will, you'll automatically fall back on the practices and tools that you learned from the Elevated Life Club.
Bingo. Ooh. Yes. It's time this year, I really feel, for so many of us to step into our power and for so many of us to realize that there are simple tools available to us that can help us in any situation that we find ourselves in. We just need to be well equipped. It just takes you, for a moment, setting up a practice, knowing what to do, and then implementing in your daily life so that you're actually doing it, so that when you go out, you can automatically perform the task and be, like I said, who you really are.
So if you're ready to elevate your life, then we highly recommend you join us inside the club, where you can access the replay to this month's Breathwork Masterclass, along with over 50 masterclasses to choose from on demand, from yoga and meditation from success to spirituality. We have got you covered in the club. Enjoy this box breathing. Let us know how it shows up in your life as you practice, and tag us on Instagram, and we will catch you guys in the next episode, and we hope to see you inside the club. Until then, peace. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Elevated Life Podcast. Want more? Join us at theelevatedlifeclub.com for mindset upgrades, lifestyle hacks, and spiritual tools to elevate your soul.
Each month features a new masterclass, meditation, yoga practice, and more to help you transform your life one step at a time.
Come join the 7 or Above Club.